Different stages of sinful action. No, not body. There are three ways of sinful activities, but I am saying stages of sinful action. Yeah, seed, what we call kuta, bija, papa, aprarabdha, and prarabdha. We discussed that cycle, if you remember that cycle which we discussed of the sinful action. That cycle where first it starts with kuta, the sinful tendency. Okay. And can someone explain why a devotee falls down? In the sense, after practicing Krishna consciousness also, we see still devotees fall down. Yeah, chanting offenses with holy names with offenses. Yeah, we discussed different reasons. Yeah, that is one reason. We discussed also how, because devotees are not following, not following the seniors, not sharing their problems with seniors, not following four regulated principles strictly. Yeah. Okay. So this completes the introduction. About Vachovegam, Prabhupada compares the talking of Mayavadis to what? Yeah, croaking of frogs. Yeah, yeah. And what Prahlad Maharaj rejects regarding Vachovegam, there is one famous verse. What Prahlad rejects regarding Vachovegam. Okay, he rejects the Mauna Vrat, correct. The munis who go to Himalayas and they do Mauna Vrat and they try to meditate, that he rejects. Instead, he says, better I stay in this material world, in the cities and town, and glorify the Supreme Lord. What neophytes should do to control Vachovegam? We discussed about this. Okay, chanting. Yeah, chanting is true, but specifically, we discussed about when devotees come together. Yeah, associate with senior devotees, because initially people try to more associate with equals. That may not be so good because they may talk prajalpa. So better they associate more with seniors in the initial years so that they can control their Vachovegam. Then what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati talks about Vachovegam. And there are two verses which he mentions. What Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati talks about Vachovegam. One, two things are there. Okay, he specifically says uh, about writing books. One thing he says that people write unnecessarily books, that is also not following Vachovegam. Then he quotes this verses Nayadvachas Chitrapadam Hare. Yeah, crow and swan, yeah. And also Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo, that verse also. 1.5.10 and 11. So we discussed those verses about Vachovegam. Okay, what Prabhupada talks about being in solitude. What exactly Prabhupada says about being in solitude? Actually, Prabhupada says being in solitude means actually being in association of devotees. Even in association, one can individually experience Krishna consciousness, he says. Yeah, okay. And what Narada Muni talks about, the next question is already answered. But what Narada Muni talks about Vacho Vegam. Okay, one devotee is saying he is not able to hear. I hope others are able to hear. They are answering nicely. I request those who are not able to hear, they can go to a place where the range is good. Because all devotees are answering. So what Narada Muni tells about Vacho Vegam? Yeah. He says, yeah, Alpa Bhashini, correct. Means speaking only when necessary or concisely. Austerity of speech already answered. One should be truthful, pleasing. It should be pleasing, beneficial, not agitating others. Yeah. And application of what should we, how should we apply this Vacho Vegam? How can we apply? Yeah, we should speak to elevate others' consciousness and our own consciousness. That is one thing, and always try to share whatever we heard with others. So we'll go ahead with Krodha Vegam. Yeah. So in any of the descriptions, first I'll describe what Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what they said about each of the Vegams. Then I explain about what other, whatever I collected, some things. So Prabhupada is saying, similarly, anger can be controlled. We cannot stop anger altogether, but we should simply become angry with those who blaspheme the Lord and devotees of the Lord. We can control anger in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada gives examples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becoming angry on Jaga and Madai. When Madai hit Nityananda Prabhu with a pot and blood was coming, Lord comes great anger with his Sudarshan Chankra to cut off his head. But Nityananda Prabhu stops him. So Prabhupada also says that Trinadapi should be applied for oneself. One should tolerate offenses which are committed towards oneself, but when it is committed against other Vaishnavas, one should not tolerate. So Krodha, anger cannot be stopped, but it can be applied rightly. Like Hanuman ji, he gives example of Hanuman, who becomes very angry on Ravana and Lanka, burning of all the Lanka. And then Prabhupada also gives another example of Arjuna. Initially, Arjuna was not willing to fight, but when Krishna incited his anger, he spoke the entire Bhagavad Gita to incite his anger to fight. So, on the order of Krishna, so he fought. So, Prabhupada is mentioning you must fight. To fight without anger is not possible. So, anger is controlled when utilized in the service of the Lord. So, this is what Prabhupada is mentioning in the book. So, here is a very interesting thing on anger spoken by Yudhishthir Maharaj. We know Yudhishthir Maharaj is famous for Ajata Shatru. He is called Ajata Shatru because he never had any enemies. Others like Kauravas, they considered him as enemy, but he himself never considered them as enemies. We see all throughout Mahabharata. So he spoke on anger. That means really it carries some value, right? Because he is actually following it. So he is saying to Draupadi, "O intelligent lady, through anger we may sometimes gain wealth, but anger ultimately destroys mankind. Real prosperity crowns one who controls anger and brings adversity to one whom anger controls. Anger is the root of all destruction. An angry man commits sin blindly. An angry man will kill even his own preceptor and insults his elders. He cannot distinguish between right and wrong. There is nothing an angry man might not say or do, even to the point of sending himself to death's abode. Knowing this, I will not indulge in anger, Draupadi. Rather, I will strive to control it. So, by knowing the ill effects of anger, one will be able to control it. So, that's why he is telling the wrong effects of anger. Only fools praise anger, considering it equivalent to energy. The wise keep anger at a distance. The man consumed by anger does not easily acquire generosity, dignity, courage, skill, or the other attributes possessed by men of character. The wise consider him a man of character who restrains his wrath. The pious always praise such a man because they understand the forgiving man is always victorious. One who represses his anger even when antagonized rejoices in the next world. For this it is said that a wise man, whether strong or weak, and even if in difficulty, should always forgive his persecutor. So here he is talking about forgiveness and what happens by anger. If somebody is angry, he loses all these good qualities. Then he is telling, by now Yudhishthir's brothers also gather there, and he keeps on describing the glories of forgiveness. If there were not persons in this world who exercised forgiveness, then chaos would soon prevail. If kings and other superiors give away to anger, then the distressed people would quickly meet with ruin. If inferiors do not tolerate their superiors' admonishments, then sin will take root and destroy mankind. I shall cite to you the verse spoken in ancient times by Rishi Kashyap. Forgiveness is virtue, forgiveness is sacrifice, and forgiveness is the Vedas. Forgiveness is purity and penance. It is truth, piety, religion, and the holy Narayan. Through forgiveness, the universe is sustained, and by practicing forgiveness, a man can attain to everlasting regions of bliss. So much forgiveness is glorified. How can, how then can I renounce forgiveness, O Draupadi, in which is established spirituality, truth, wisdom, and three worlds? Both this world and the next belong to the forgiving person. Therefore, forgiveness is considered the highest virtue. So, because to overcome anger, the most important quality which we need to cultivate is forgiveness. So, here the glories of forgiveness are given. So, not only should we forgive people, but we should also forget. Sometimes we forgive someone externally, but we may not forget. We may keep it in our mind and continue holding the grudges in our mind. So these are few verses mentioned on anger in Bhagavad Gita. We know the famous verse Dhyaito Vishan Pumsha, how the lust gradually, by meditating on the objects of senses, one develops lust. And when lust is unfulfilled, then it turns to anger. Kama yesha, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhrama. Smriti bhramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. And then Krishna also talks from where this krodha comes. Kama yesha, krodha yesha, rajoguna samudbhava. And he is saying this Mahashano Mahapatma Vidiyena Minivahenna. So this anger, this is coming from Rajoguna. Then he is saying another sloka also. Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mam Upashrita Bhaho Gnana Tapasa Puta Madbhava Magata. So being freed from attachment, fear and anger, and being fully absorbed in taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified. So these are three things one should be freed from. uh, Vita, raga, bhaya, krodha. One should be freed from attachment, fear and anger. Then one will be able to attain Krishna very easily. Then Krishna is speaking in the 16th chapter. Trividam narakashedam varam nashramatmana kama krodhas tata lobhas. The three gates to hell: lust, anger and greed. So every sane man should give up this so that they don't degrade the soul. And then in another sloka, Krishna is telling Dambo Darpo Abhimanascha Krodha Parisham Evacha Agnanam Chavidatasya Partha Sampadam Asurim. These are the qualities of demonic people. So one of the qualities is anger. So many times in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling us to avoid this anger. So people in this world generally they use anger to control people, and actually sometimes anger is required because without anger sometimes things don't work. So that's why sometimes there are deadlines in companies where they say by this date if you don't complete your work we will take out your job, you have to leave this job. So people sometimes use anger. So if we know the evil effects of anger, then we can very easily overcome. So once one MP, member of parliament, so one newspaper, they wrote something wrong about that MP. So his followers were very angry on that newspaper and they told this MP that can we do something to them. So this MP, he said, they are like shoes. Suppose when a shoe bites a man, he said, does the man bite the shoe? Because if man starts biting the shoe, what happens? The shoe is dirty, and by biting it, we also become dirty. Same way, when someone becomes angry, we need not unnecessarily become angry and associate with them, because by associating with them, we also get affected by that modes of passion, and we also may get influenced. So better, actually, one of the slokas in Bhagavatam, it says that when people are influenced in this world by modes of passion, a devotee sees that how they are affected by different modes and he tries to keep himself aloof from that modes to be affected by those modes. So that is how we can be saved. So somebody has questions, they can ask little later. After Krodha Vegam is over, we'll answer the questions. Okay, so we should be so elevated that we should be able to see how different modes are acting on people. Generally we ourselves are affected, so it becomes difficult, but at least in goodness we'll be able to know uh, how people are getting affected by anger or like passion and ignorance. So when people unnecessarily blaspheme us, one should tolerate, as we discussed. When someone insults us, we can tolerate. So just like Durvasa Muni, when he became angry unnecessarily, Ambarish Maharaj, he tolerated it. Not only he tolerated it, he was praying as long as Durvasa was traveling all over the universe. Ambarish, actually, he was not happy in the sense he was not enjoying how this Durvasa was suffering. He was actually praying for him and waiting for him all throughout that year. Yeah. So we can learn from Ambarish Maharaj. So even Bible talks about anger. So it says how one should love those who hate us, embrace those who hurt you. If someone slaps you, show the other cheek. Such teachings are also there in Bible. And what to speak of Bhagavatam. So Bible is an introduction introductory religious principles are given. Bhagavatam talks of much higher things. So just like somebody sets up fire to our house, so we should worry about stopping the fire, not chasing the person who put the fire. In the sense, uh, we need not unnecessarily become angry on the person. We should worry about the consequences of anger, what he has shown. In the sense, sometimes because of angry, some people are affected or sometimes even destroyed. So we can focus on them. So when someone becomes angry, as Bhagavad Gita tells, Krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vibhrama. One loses one's intelligence. So in scriptures, different kinds of blindness is explained. So one is kamandha, one is blinded by lust. Another is krodhandha, one is blinded by anger also. And another is madandha, one is blinded by pride, illusion. So when we are under this anarthas, we may become blind because of those anarthas, because our mind is covered over by those emotions. So one should not be blinded by these things. So once one Brahmana, he came and he started blaspheming Lord Buddha about the monastery they are running. So Lord Buddha was completely silent, and he told one of his followers to note down whatever this Brahmana is saying. So after that, Brahmana chastised him for a long time. Then he left. Then Lord Buddha was asked by his followers why he was silent. So Lord Buddha said that by becoming angry, one would lose all one's purity. Also, he said by noting down all the points, we got some good advice from the person. So this is how Lord Buddha reacted. There is another incident also. Once one more person comes and becomes angry on Lord Buddha, he was silent. So later again he said to his followers that if someone is giving a gift to us, and if we are silent, if we don't accept that gift, then what will happen? The gift will remain with the person only, right? So same way, someone becomes angry, if you don't react and if you don't take it, that means what? That anger will remain with that person only. So he will only suffer. So Buddha also told, if you lose your cool head and become angry, you lose more than the person you are angry on. So anger is a double-edged dagger. It hurts you more. So if you become angry on the person who became angry on us, then we also suffer, sometimes more, because in a revengeful attitude, sometimes mind becomes completely filled with grudges, and constantly our heart starts burning with anger and grudges. So it is much more dangerous to have revengeful attitude. So even Hanuman, although he burned Lanka and all, later he regretted. He was thinking maybe Sita might have got hurt by this. Unnecessarily I burnt. So even Vibhishan told to Ravana the ill effects of anger. Said anger is the cause of all miseries. When you are angry, you lose your intelligence. So there is one more nice story which Lord Ram tells. So this is in Ramayana. Once a dog, uh, it comes to Lord Ram for justice. In the past, anybody could approach the king for justice. So the dog says, one Brahmana has unnecessarily hit me. while going on the street. So then Lord Ram calls that Brahmana. So then he asks the Brahmana, why you hit the dog? So he says, the dog was on my way and I was quite disturbed. So I hit him on his head. So Lord Ram said, okay, this is not proper behavior of a Brahmana, so he should be punished. So then he asked the dog, what should be the punishment which we should give to this Brahmana? So the dog thought for some time and then he said, make him the Matadipati of Kalanjar Mat. So everybody was shocked. They thought the dog is very unintelligent. Why this fellow is telling to make him the head of a mutt? So the ministers thought that it is not intelligent. It is asking, it is making him the head. So Lord Ram asks, why you want to make him the head of a mutt? So the dog said, actually previously in past life, I myself was the head of that mutt. And he said, I was quite well behaved with all the residents there, with everyone, but still I became a dog. Maybe unknowingly I did something wrong, because of which I became a dog. So this Brahmana, he is not at all good. He is so angry for small mistakes or small things. Now if we make him the head of this mutt, surely he will degrade to hell. So that's why I want to make him the head of that mutt. So then everybody understands. Uh, so then Lord Ram, after this, he tells that uh, anyone who is truly wise should never become disproportionately angry. Okay. So a very interesting story. Uh, especially if somebody is a leader, one should be very careful. So then does it mean that we should never be angry? So then now we'll see when we should actually show anger. So actually transcendental anger, which we talk like Hanumanji or Arjuna, that transcendental anger uh, like them can be shown after purification of heart, because sometimes in the name of transcendental anger one may have grudges and try to take revenge on people in the name of transcendental anger. So one should know when to become angry, how much to become angry, and on whom to become angry. So that wisdom makes him a great soul. It's not easy, these parameters, to judge exactly. Generally, most of us, at least myself, uh, unnecessarily no, I become angry sometimes without knowing the reasons, or uh, so it's not recommended to unnecessarily become angry. One should consider the pros and cons. That's why in goodness only one can at least show anger, right anger, in the sense one will be very thoughtful in goodness, so it will be easy to evaluate whether I should really be angry or not. In passion and ignorance, one may unnecessarily show anger. So actually one may think sometimes that I will use anger, but actually anger may use us. So we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he never became angry with seniors. So even when seniors mistreat us, we should never show angry on them. We see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was chastised by Ramchandrapur. He was constantly finding faults. So once he came, when Lord Chaitanya was honoring Prasad, he saw ants uh, in Gambira, and he said, see, this sannyasi, He is meant to be a sannyasi and he is eating so many sweets. Otherwise, why there are so many ants here? So although Lord Chaitanya was quite renounced, but still after Lord this Ramchandra Puri was finding faults, Lord Chaitanya, it is mentioned that he reduced his eating a lot. He took that words very seriously to his heart. So he never retaliated or spoke anything against Ramchandra Puri, although he had the power if he wanted. But devotees, other devotees were upset with him. On personal account, no one should become angry. Such anger is out of passion. But we can become angry when some other devotee was insulted. Like just like in Bhagavatam, we see Nandi becomes very angry on Daksha when Daksha insults Lord Shiva in that Yagna. Same way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he tolerated the insults of Prakashananda Saraswati. When he goes to that meeting, there he says, no, all of you people are sentimentalists. You just sing. Instead of that, you should sing. Instead of that, you should no, recite scriptures. 1 minute. Actually, Lord Chaitanya shows by his own example how to tolerate. That's why he spoke the famous Sikshastakam, Kranadapi Sunichena. So one should pray or forgive those who become angry on us. As we discuss examples of Ambarish Maharaj, or even that story is there of Ramanujacharya who prayed for the Pujari who poisoned him. Actually, after he takes the Charnamrit, he goes and goes to his mutt and he sits there and he starts praying for that Pujari constantly for a long time. So there are many examples like that. Lord Chaitanya, he became angry sometimes when devotees deviated. Just like Vallabhacharya, when he wrote one commentary which was not in line with the previous acharyas, then Lord Chaitanya said, "This is not expected from you." He was little angry on him. And later, when he got reformed, then Lord Chaitanya even went to his house for prasad. Lord Chaitanya also became angry when his followers didn't represent him properly. Like we see the example of Chota Haridas or Kala Krishna Das. When they got attracted by women, he became angry and rejected them. So in such situations where if you are an authority over other people, and if you have that right over other people, just like somebody may be a counselor or Bhakti Rich leader, and in some situations one has the right to show anger, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed. So that doesn't mean that anybody and anyone can show anger in the sense when somebody commits mistakes. So unless we are their authority, we need not show anger unnecessarily, or unless we have a good relation with them, because sometimes if we don't have good relation, people may not take in the right spirit, so unnecessarily the relationship may be spoiled. So instead, in case their authorities don't know, we can tell their authorities about the mistake, so they will take care of that. So we need not take power in our hands to correct people, because that can ruin relationships and may increase our fault finding tendency. So sometimes in case some people blaspheme Srila Prabhupada or ISKCON, like sometimes friends or relatives, those who are not devotees, they may blaspheme. So that time we should clarify, we should not keep mum. In the sense, we have to clarify to them. So in case they still continue, we can leave that place. As scriptures mention, we can say, I'm busy now, sorry, I can't discuss, and we can leave. Because hearing the blasphemy of great souls is very dangerous. It is offensive. So to protect Lord and devotees, we can show anger. So we see many, even recent, in the sense, some years back, Ladini Mataji, she was killed. So when some terrorists attacked the temple and they gathered all the devotees in the temple to kill, so they said to Hladini Mataji that you should leave. They told, I think, women not to be there, they can go away. But she didn't go away. She said, I can't allow you to kill all these devotees. So she tried to stop them, and they themselves, they instead killed her. And also in Mayapur, once some dacoits attacked Mayapur temple. That time, His Holiness Bhakti Raghav Swami Maharaj, he also tried to protect the devotees, the deities. So that time somebody threw a bomb, and in that bomb blast, Maharaj lost one of his legs. So whenever some enemies try to attack lordships and devotees, one should always show anger. So Prabhupada also sometimes he showed anger on his disciples. Many incidents are there. But his anger is filled with sympathy. It is filled with compassion. So once one devotee went to Radhakund, leaving Prabhupada's association. He was Prabhupada's disciple, but he went and joined some Babaji. So then he came once back to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada asked him, why you left me? He said, devotees are not taking care of me. Then Prabhupada said, I will personally take care of you. So stay here. So Prabhupada was so loving and caring. So the scriptures say, those who are not your sons or disciples, you have no right to correct them. They cannot become angry on anyone and everyone unnecessarily. So a king who is a leader, he has the right to become angry so that he can subdue the rogues and thieves. Like in Bhagavatam, we see Parikshit becoming angry on Kali, or Prithu Maharaj becoming angry on Mother Earth when she was not giving the necessities for people in general. But then certain people's anger is also criticized in Bhagavatam. Just like Indra, when he became unnecessarily angry on Vrajavasis for not giving the yearly, not conducting the Tegina for him. And also when Dhruva became angry on Akshas, so it is mentioned there, it is Atirosha. Atirosha means disproportionate anger. So only one, he could have killed that Aksha who killed his brother. Instead of that, he was killing all the Akshas combinedly. And Swayambhu Manu had to come to stop him. So there it is mentioned that type of anger is not encouraged. So there are, not 3, 4 types of anger which a devotee can show. We can be angry on people who are against Krishna consciousness, or those who deviate themselves and also deviate innocent people. So like Sahajiyas, Mayavadis, atheistic scientists. Prabhupada, if we see in many of the purports, whenever he gets a chance, he always chastises Mayavadis. So we can show anger on them. And we can also show angry on our own anger. In the sense, when we become unnecessarily angry, we can show angry on ourselves, that I am unnecessarily distancing myself from devotees by becoming angry. I should give up this anger. And we can also show anger on devotees if we are, as I said, if we are in a responsible position, leadership position. And we can also show anger on mind, and the mind deviates. So there are some nice verses given in Manas Siksha by Raghunath Das Goswami, where he chastises sometimes the mind, or he guides the mind. What should the mind do? So he is saying in the fifth verse in Manak Shiksha, my dear mind, in this material life you are attacked by lust, which is like a gang of thugs that waylay innocent pilgrims, strangling you with strong, terrible ropes in the form of distress, pain, and futile endeavors. In this condition, you must cry out piteously and invoke the mercy of the unalloyed devotees of Sri Krishna, the killer of the demon Bakasur. They will surely protect you from this dilemma. So he's saying whenever the anarthas attack us, they try to put us in so many problems. So that time one should cry out helplessly to the unalloyed devotees of Krishna, seeking their mercy, praying to them, begging their mercy. So by that we can be protected, he's saying. And another verse is saying, my dear mind, you have embraced the path of self-realization, yet you foolishly think that you are cleansing yourself by bathing in the pretentiously fierce qualities of deceit and fault finding, which are compared to impure donkey urine. My lord, the acharyas, they very heavily chastise the mind. Factually, you are incinerating yourself and dragging an infinitesimal spirit soul like me into the conflagration. Stop this suicidal course. Dive into the immortal ocean of sublime ambrosia that awaits you in loving devotional service at the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Krishna. Resuscitate my very being and thus give both of us endless happiness. So basically, when the mind is going to wrong things, finding faults or trying to look for name, fame, recognition, one can chastise, become angry on mind, like the acharyas have shown. So when superiors show angry on juniors, in case some superior shows anger on us, so how we can see? So we can see that it is only to improve us. Uh, so it can be shown when a superior has a position, when he is like counselor or temple president. Also, we should understand anger is necessary for liberating the conditioned soul from Maya. Samadana Danda Ved. So, in different ways, one can try to change a person. So, sometimes anger is also required. Without anger, conditioned soul sometimes sleeps in the lap of Maya. So, when a superior shows anger, we should take it in the right spirit. It is for my own purification, for my own change of heart, to remove the demons in my heart he is showing. So one should not unnecessarily keep grudges or think that he is unnecessarily becoming angry. I will also see for a chance where I can show my anger on him. So such kind of grudges should not be there. If we are able to take it in the right spirit, we will get benefited a lot. So if we are superiors and if we are correcting, then it should be done as a service, not to ridicule or assassinate one's character. Means sometimes unnecessarily one may become angry on juniors. And if in case somebody becomes unduly angry, one should not justify. One should accept one's mistake instead of justifying one's anger. So there are four stages of anger. First is a slight disturbance in the mind, and then there is agitation which becomes more thicker. Many thoughts of anger may come out, and eventually one may speak out that towards the person whom he has anger on. And finally, one may develop resentment in the heart, where we may develop hatred for a person. We can't stand to see his face. One may have a cold war, in the sense one may never like to be with him, nor even dance with him, or never be around. So these are the four levels of anger. So one should try to stop at disturbance level only. Resentment is the highest. That is completely bad. If somebody has gone to that level, then it disturbs our peace of mind. So one should stop uh, at the level of mind only. Negate those thoughts of anger. So how to dissolve this anger or grudges? So one should understand that our heart should be very tender. Without a tender heart, we cannot practice bhakti. Krishna will not stay in a tender when the heart becomes hard with anger. Hmm. So it is said, when the heart becomes soft like butter, then Krishna steals our heart. But because of anger, it becomes very hard. So when the tenderness is shown towards other jiva, others living entities, it is called daya, compassion. And when someone continues to forgive people, it is called kshama, that tenderness of heart. So a devotee should have all these qualities so that the heart becomes soft. So a devotee should show no hatred for those people who harm us. So a devotee understands that unnecessarily I should not choke up the tender creeper of devotional service, because after many lifetimes we got Bhakti Lata Beach and it is just growing. So unnecessarily if we show anger, it becomes offense, and then because of that our growth of Bhakti Lata Beach stops. So we should take feedback from devotees and note down in which all situations I am becoming angry. So we should take care that we don't become angry. Even if we can ask other devotees, or we ourselves can evaluate in which situations we are unnecessarily becoming angry. So by asking forgiveness, or by forgiving a person uh, for his mistakes, we can easily control anger. So Lord Buddha said that if somebody is wicked, if we see a person as wicked, we generally have vengeance towards that person. But if we see them as ignorant, just like Lord Jesus Christ also, he prayed for those executioners, right? That they did this act out of ignorance. So please forgive them. So like that, if we are able to see people as ignorant, then we'll be able to forgive them. Uh, Blasphemy and offenses in a heart, comes from the heart, and mistakes come from the mind. So means when somebody willfully wants to, know, in the sense offend us, that may come from the heart. When we or others do that, that may come from the heart, willfully doing it. Sometimes unwillfully or by mistake they may become angry. But a Vaishnava should forgive both the mistakes and the offenses and blasphemy. Both things should be forgiven. So we see in Bhagavatam how Yudhishthir Maharaj was so forgiving that even after the whole Kurukshetra war, uh, although Dhritarashtra was so attached to the kingdom, Still, he used to go and offer him obeisances and treat him so nicely. So that's why he is called Ajata Shatru. So anger can also be given up when we see the following things in a person. What he has done for Srila Prabhupada's mission and how many years he has been dedicatedly serving for this mission. Another thing which we can see is what he has done for me and how will my relationship be with him at the time of our death. In the sense, if we don't develop good relation, Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj says at the time of death, all we have is the association of devotees. So it should not happen that we hate those people who are around us. Then at the time of death, it becomes difficult to remember Krishna. And also we should see the qualities of the good qualities of the person. So if we can see this, then our anger will subside. Actually, Giriraj Maharaj tells of one incident when he was president in Juhu temple during Prabhupada's times. There was one devotee who shifted from US. So he was doing gardening in Juhu. So he and Giriraj Maharaj never had a good relation. So they were always quarreling. So one day he reads about the devotee in Back to Godhead magazine, how this devotee was empowered by Prabhupada to build Rath Yatra carts. Then after reading how he was so dear to Prabhupada, then his whole attitude changes. After that they become good friends. So sometimes when we become angry unnecessarily, so we want to shout or yell on some person, so we can write a mail and we need not send it to the person. Means we can express our feelings and keep it in the mail, and then later on when the anger cools down, we will be able to delete it. So even when we want to show anger, we should be able to know, we should know how to convey our anger, our feelings, because sometimes we may shout and yell at a person and that may break their hearts. So even when we want to correct people, we should be able to correct in such a way that their hearts are not broken. So when we become angry, so our chanting will be disturbed, because this age of Kali Yuga is called the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. When two people come together, there is quarrel, and when we are alone, there is hypocrisy. So just like in forest, sometimes two bamboo sticks come together, they rub and there is fire. Same way, Kali Yuga, sometimes unnecessarily there are fights in the association. So this is Kali's plan to stop the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes Kali tries to create quarrels, so devotees should be very careful not to quarrel unnecessarily. So when there is quarrel, that means Kali has entered. So Kali makes powerful people not to work together. So we see sometimes even in ISKCON, there are two very powerful personalities, but because they are fighting, so they can't cooperate and work together. So because of lack of cooperation, many things don't happen. So, but if people cooperate and work together, it is called synergy. So there is an example given. If there are two boats which can carry 200 kgs, together if they work together, cooperate, then they can carry 750 kgs. This is called synergy. So if we can stop our angry and cooperate with devotees, then lot of good things can be done in ISKCON. So people may have faults, but we should try to oversee it. We should also try to understand people, what they are saying, or what is the situation, because many times we don't hear what others are saying, or we don't know exactly what happened. We just judge and become angry. So we should first try to understand others, and then trying to be understood. So if we unnecessarily become angry on people, we can give them some prasad or gift to dissolve that bad relationship which we have. Because if we don't do that, then that small strain in relationship can go on and on and on. So if we have a strain in relationship with someone, already if the relationship is bad, suppose, we should not further aggravate the relationship by becoming angry or having arguments with that person, because that will further ruin the relationship. Just like if suppose that person is sleeping in chanting and you wake him up, he may become more angry. He may think unnecessarily he is disturbing me. So sometimes even after we beg forgiveness, and if the Vaishnava is keeping distance, we should understand that the trust level is low. That's why he is keeping distance. So we should build the relationship over a period of time by serving that person, by serving that devotee. So when we can serve that Vaishnava over a period of time, then he will develop trust in us. Then there will be loving relationship. So in different ways we can serve that Vaishnava according to his likes and dislikes. We can help or assist him in different ways. Also, if somebody is perfectionist, they will become angry for everything. So once Gaurang Prabhu was telling, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakale Ashant. So Siddhi Kami means one who expects perfection from people and situations. They are always Sakale Ashant. They are never peaceful. They cannot be peaceful. So instead of expecting perfection from devotees and systems, better expect purification. Unless you are an authority, you need not unnecessarily expect perfection from devotees and systems. So we should understand that everybody in this world has 4 defects, right? The senses are imperfect, so we fall in illusion, and then we commit mistakes and we try to cheat. So these defects are there in everyone. To err is human. So we should understand, I also committed many mistakes. So same way others may commit mistakes. So we should learn to forgive and be tolerant. So when somebody may speak ill of us, but we should not think of their faults. Generally, when someone speaks badly about us, we also start finding faults. So instead of that, one can think how that fault is really there in me and try to improve. Like Chitraketu, when he was cursed by Mother Parvati, he didn't counteract. He just went and offered obeisances and accepted the mistake, the curse gratefully. There is another pastime of Parasar Bhatt, the descendant of Ramanujacharya. So once when he was in front of Ranganachi, he was telling how he is so sinful. So one person who was blaspheming him always, he also was there, and he was telling Satyam Satyam whenever he was telling how he was faulty. So after everything was over, Parasar Bhatt tells to Lord, see, every day I tell how I am wrong. Today I have a proof. So please accept my mistakes. In the sense, please understand how I am so fallen. So Vaishnavas are always well-wishers of everyone. They always wish well for others. They never retaliate. So in Bhagavatam, it is mentioned how one should receive the punishment. There is this verse where King Parikshit tells to bull. Actually, the bull was hit by Kali personified, And King Parikshit asks, who did this? So this bull says various reasons. He says it may be because of that, this. So he does not no, tell who is the person who actually did. It takes upon himself. So there King Parikshit praises the bull for not finding faults or not for taking any revenge on the person who did it. So there he says, you are in the form of bull, you know the truth of religion. You are speaking according to the principle that the destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. Very important slogan. So what he's saying, if suppose somebody did something towards us or anybody else, and if you think that, if you identify the perpetrator, in the sense, uh, if you think that person is the actual cause for that act, then you will also get the same punishment. You will also get the same destination intended for the perpetrator. Very dangerous verse. No? Many times when somebody chastises us or does something wrong towards us or others, in the sense, especially towards us, we will think how he is the cause of chastising me or doing something wrong against us. We don't see how our bad karma, past karma is a cause. We see the perpetrator only. So here bull personified is teaching us how we should see the punishment. So some symptoms of becoming controlled by anger. So somebody is controlled by anger, it can become a chain reaction, in the sense, in certain situations it becomes like a chain reaction. We keep on showing anger in particular situations. There is no patience sometimes. Sometimes there is disproportionate anger, like we discussed. For small mistake we become too angry, and we can see our chanting gets affected when there are grudges. uh, we our chanting gets affected and we are not able to forget the person and the incident. So these are symptoms that we are becoming controlled by anger. So when a superior shows anger, as we discussed, we should change the outlook that he is faulty. We should note down what he is saying, and even we should continue serving the superior in spite of being irritable. The sense, in Bhagavatam there is Sukanya. She married Seth Chavan Rishi. So this Chavan Rishi, he was very irritable in his character, but still this Sukanya was serving him very humbly. Then eventually she receives lot of mercy from the sage. So in devotees association, uh, here are some situations where we unnecessarily commit mistakes. So Prabhupada talks about half-end logic, the sense, uh, when the backside of hen gives eggs, so person thinks better I cut the front portion of the hen. So same way, a devotee may have good and bad qualities. So we should focus on good qualities rather than the bad qualities. Just like a cow gives milk, but along with giving milk, it also gives sometimes kicks. So we should tolerate the kicks. So same way, devotee may do some mistakes or show some anger, or he may have some bad qualities. So one should tolerate those things. So we should never judge a person, because unnecessarily by judging we may commit offenses in future. So sometimes we may think that we may know about other people, we may judge and we may actually don't know. So it is said that the fault finding mentality which we have is millions of times more worse than the fault. So even in case somebody has a fault, if we have the mentality of a bee, that is fault finding mentality, it is said, I heard in one of the lectures, this mentality is millions of times more worse than the fault. Why so much fault finding mentality is condemned? Because that mentality actually destroys the love and trust amongst the devotees. Unnecessarily, it creates a wrong environment where devotees fight with each other, quarrel with each other. So sometimes we may even judge senior people like Prabhupada disciples if they are not coming for morning program or like that. So unnecessarily we should not judge without knowing the background. So when seniors do whatever good, we should appreciate it. Whatever bad, we need not unnecessarily judge them. We should neglect it, or we can clarify with other superiors. So because generally external behavior is not the parameter. So if we see every Vaishnava as a Vaishnava, so every moment of his behavior will be beautiful to our eyes. But if we don't see them in that way, then every action will be uh, like a arrogant person. We may think that the person is very proud and arrogant. So when someone chastises us, we can be grateful because it is helping us to become Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Savisna. So if we can see like that, then we will be able to tolerate anger. So finally, anger is a result of frustration of so many expectations which we have on people. So when we perform Krishna consciousness without material expectations, then we will not become angry. So anger is first manifested in heart, as we discussed. If we can stop there, then anger will not be expressed outside. And unnecessarily anger should not be uh, engaged. Means only pure devotees can show transcendental anger. And Prabhupada tells how anger should be on non-devotees only. So this is about Krodha Vegam. Okay. So last time we discussed about Manasa Vegam. I just made some questions on that just to review. After this, we'll discuss one more Jiva Vegam and end. So these are few questions regarding Manasa Vegam. So you can answer in the chat. So Prabhupada tells in the Manasa Vegam one shloka explaining how we should control mind. Anybody remembers what Prabhupada tells about controlling the mind? Not this one, not Savai Manak. Krishna Surya Saman, Maya hi Andakar. Jahan Krishna, that verse. Where there is Krishna, there is no Maya. Yeah. So why yogis can't control their mind? Yogis, they try to do different processes, but why they are not able to control their mind? Yeah, because they are not dependent on Krishna. Correct. They depend on themselves. So we discussed many examples on how the mind is compared to. Anyone remembers? We discussed many examples of how the mind is compared to. Okay, genie is one. Child, yeah. Good dog, bad dog, okay. Monkey. What else? Prostitute, okay. Okay. Also, we discussed the nature of mind. Nature of mind. Anybody remembers the nature of mind? What are the different natures of mind? Thinking, willing, and feeling. Yeah, correct. And mind also has the capacity to store. It is a storehouse. Yeah, fine. What are the three levels of impressions which are there in our mind? There are three levels which we discussed. The impressions which are formed in our mind. There are three levels of impressions. Anybody? Uh, yeah, samskara is the last one. Vritti, Vasana, and Samskar. Vritti means the initial impression. Vasana is a more strong tendency, and Samskara is a strong attachment. The three levels are Vritti, Vasana, and Samskar. Okay. And what Krishna tells about mind, you can just tell in brief, not so many comparisons he gives about mind in Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, restless, turbulent mind. Yeah, shoot at sight. That is not told by Krishna. He says it's obstinate. Yeah, it's enemy or friend. Yeah. So we also discussed some solutions about controlling mind. Can you tell some solutions? Gigo, yeah. Practice and constant practice and detachment. Yeah. Focus on lotus chanting, tortoise. Okay. Yuktahara. Okay. Keep it engaged. Okay. What Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur talked about controlling mind? Yeah, beating mind with shoes, correct. In the morning with shoes and evening with broomstick. Yeah. And Dustamana Tumi Kishara Vaishnava. Yeah. He also told we should chastise the mind. Yeah. He said mind is the greatest non-devotee. What Bhagavatam talks about mind? We discussed two slokas from Bhagavatam also about mind. No, no. Okay. One thing is it compares mind to be like a wife with paramours, prostitute like that. And another tells one should never believe mind, which is the storehouse of all anarthas. Yeah. So we'll go ahead to Jiva Vegam. We'll quickly finish in 10-15 minutes and we'll end. So Prabhupada, this is very short, not like Rodha Vegam. So we'll finish in max 10-15 minutes. So as for the Prabhupada tells about Jiva Vegam, as for the urges of tongue, we all experience that tongue wants to eat palatable dishes. So generally we should not allow tongue to eat according to our choice, but we should only supply prasad. So what is the attitude a devotee should have while honoring prasad? Uh, that he should eat only what Krishna gives him. That is the way one should control the tongue, urges of tongue. Prabhupada is telling. and one should take prasadam regulatedly at scheduled times. And Prabhupada is telling one should not eat in restaurants or sweetmeat shops simply to satisfy the whims of tongue. If we stick to this principle, then the urges of belly and tongue can be controlled. So this is told by Prabhupada in the purport. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he talks in his Anuvriti commentary that there are 6 kinds of rasas the tongue wants to taste. So if the tongue is agitated by any of these rasas, then it is difficult to control the tongue. So then Prabhupada gives many Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gives examples how people in this world are attracted to eat meat and different kinds of tastes they want to experience with the tongue. Then he also says, including the use of extra quantities of spices like chili and tamarind is to be given up by Krishna conscious persons. Because if we use them for our sense gratification, that is also not following Jiva Vegam. And he says we should practice accepting only remnants of Krishna or food offered to Krishna. So that is what he says. And he also says if one accepts prasad only because it is palatable, it is having palatable taste, and one eats too much, then he falls prey to satisfying one's demands of tongue. So Lord Chaitanya said, Balana Kai Bear, one should not eat palatable dishes. So simply offering palatable dishes to deities with the intention of eating nice food, that is also not following Jiva Vegam. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, if we accept the invitation of rich man with the idea of receiving palatable food, that is also not satisfying the demands of tongue. So there is this famous verse, Jivera Lalasaye Iti Utidai Sishnodara Parayana Krishna Nai Pai. A person who runs here and there seeking to gratify his palate and who is always attached to the desires of his stomach and genitals, he is unable to attain Krishna. So one should be careful to control one's tongue. If you are too much attached to this, then it keeps us in trouble. So the senses are actually very troublesome traveling. They are compared to troublesome traveling companions who always try to trouble us. So just like in a ship, there is this ladder which directs the ship according to the movements. So the tongue is compared to that. Where the tongue goes, that direction all the other senses go. So that's why the tongue has to be controlled first. So Prabhupada in one of his lectures, he says, people just to satisfy their tongue, they have started this slaughterhouses, the meat eaters. He's saying even in planes, they are distributing this. So for a small piece of meat, they have to kill so many animals unnecessarily. So Prabhupada is telling what is the difficulty. Instead, they could make the same thing by milk. If they make cheese and fry it, Prabhupada is telling they will get the same taste. But unnecessarily, simply to satisfy one's tongue, they are eating this meat, Prabhupada is telling. And then to control this, because of this formidable tongue, one has to take life after life. One has to suffer. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about foods in 3 modes. So in according to Sattva Guna, the foods are foods which increase duration of life which purify one's existence, which give strength, health, happiness. Such foods are in goodness, which are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. The foods which are bitter, sour, salty, too hot, too pungent, and burning, they are dear to those in mode of passion. So they are foods in mode of passion. These foods cause distress, misery, and disease. And foods which are prepared more than 3 hours before eating, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, foods consisting of remnants and untouchable things, they are in mode of ignorance. So Krishna also talks about regulating one's eating. He says one who eats too much or too little, or sleeps too much or too little, there is no possibility of becoming successful in yoga. So in another sloka, famous sloka on regulation, Iktahara Viharascha, he says one who is regulated in eating, sleeping, recreation, he can be freed from all pains. So Prabhupada gives the example of fish. Fish is attracted by some desire to enjoy the tongue. So the fisherman keeps some attractive food to the hook, and then he catches the fish by that hook. Same way, a foolish person is bewildered by the urges of tongue and becomes attached. So then Prabhupada talks about how to control the tongue in one of his lectures by reciting this sloka of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which we also sing every day. We are supposed to sing. Sharira Vidya Jal Jodendriya Tahe Kal Jive Fele Vishesh Sagari Taramade Jivhati. So Prabhupada is telling that out of all the senses, the tongue is most difficult to control. So the tongue is very greedy and difficult to control. So, but Krishna is very kind. Out of his causeless mercy, he has given prasad, which is remnants of Krishna. So, by honoring prasad, one can control this. So, you cannot understand Krishna on your own. So, it is said, Atah Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhaved Graham Indriya. So, you cannot understand Krishna by these imperfect senses. Only by seva unmukhe hi jivado. By serving Krishna, by engaging your tongue. So there are two ways to engage the tongue. By speaking about Krishna and by honoring prasad. In these two ways, one will be able to engage one's tongue, and that is how the tongue will be controlled. So Krishna is very kindly giving us this prasadam. So our body is in ignorance, and it always wants to enjoy. So only Krishna is so kind, he is giving us this to control. So what are the two benefits by honoring prasadam? Our heart is purified, and automatically one becomes simple and austere. So Prabhupada said one should become addicted to only prasadam and nothing else. That is how we will be able to control. In Srimad Bhagavatam 8th canto, it is mentioned that although one may conquer all the other senses, as long as the tongue is not conquered, it cannot be said that one has controlled his senses. If one is able to control the tongue, then one is understood to be in full control of all other senses. So if one eats too much, we can see it causes sleep. Overeating causes oversleep. We see after lunch many times in India, people want to sleep. But actually, Radheshyam was saying, actually after eating, one should be as enthusiastic as we are before, or even much more. So then it is not overeating. So that's why one should eat only that which is required to keep the body and soul together. So over a period of time, we should understand what is just required to keep the body and soul together. Only that much we should eat. So as such, nobody eats less in this world. Very rarely people eat less. So if someone eats too less, it may cause hunger. So we should eat which is very healthy and nourishing to the body. And because we eat prasadam, we honor prasad, that also nourishes our soul. And foods which are too oily and too fatty, they are very dangerous because it increases mode of passion and ignorance. So as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Balana kaibe ar balana paribe. One should not eat very palatable foodstuffs. Uh, so when we take prasadam, we should focus on spiritual aspects of prasadam. Generally, when we honor prasad, we are worried about the taste uh, and different other aspects, material aspects of prasad. So our focus should be on the spiritual aspect. How Krishna is so kind. He has given this prasad. I am not qualified. There is one pastime when Lord Shiva once gets prasad, Mahaprasad. So he was dancing in ecstasy. So Mother Parvati says, "Why are you so ecstatic?" So he says, I got little Mahaprasad." She asks, "Can I get some?" She says, "No, it's over." So then Mother Parvati, she does austerity to get uh, prasadam, Mahaprasad. Actually, Lord, he blesses Mother Parvati that she gets the remnants of Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri. As Bimala Devi, after Lord Jagannath accepts prasad, she receives the remnants. So even she had to perform lot of tapasya to receive little prasad. So how fortunate we are. We get so easily. So that's why we should sing the prasadam prayers before honoring prasad, and we should meditate on the meaning uh, so that we can take it with proper consciousness. Actually, it is the nectar which is coming from the lips of Krishna, right? So it's very, very rare to get that mercy. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he saw his sannyasis were taking all the Mahaprasad, he told them, first you should serve everyone else and then you should take. Also, he personally used to mix all the prasad and then honor. All whatever prasadam was served, he used to mix everything and take. To say that actually everything is mercy of Krishna, we should not distinguish uh, because sometimes even in uh, like he saw some of the disciples, they wanted specific Mahaprasad, only sweet Mahaprasad. So he said one should not distinguish. So one should take only how we can control this tongue. One should only take prasadam that is offered to Krishna. We should know what is the standard of prasad, which is cooked by devotees. We should simply prepare simply for pleasure of Krishna, not for our tongue. So when we prepare also food, we should prepare it for Krishna's pleasure, not that I will enjoy the preparations later on. Because that consciousness, preparing food with that consciousness actually is not pleasing to Krishna. Krishna may not accept it. And also we should take prasadam at regulated times so that we control, not that every time we keep on eating. And yeah, as I said, we should not prepare palatable dishes with the intention of enjoying. So Prabhupada tells in Antelila about the dangers of eating food offered by materialistic men. So he says one's mind can become contaminated uh, by eating food offered by materialistic people. And Prabhupada warns us, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur is saying that people who are materialistically inclined and sahajiyas or so-called Vaishnavas who take everything very casually, are both Vishayis or materialists. Eating food offered by them causes contamination, and as a result of such contamination, even a serious devotee becomes like a materialistic man. So one should be very careful avoiding associating with both Sahajiyas, who are sometimes known as Vaishnavas. So he's warning us that if we take food offered by non-devotees, materialists, it is very serious. One may become very materialistic and one may fall down. So these are few things about Jiva Vegam. So we'll discuss the remaining next time. So if anybody has any doubts regarding any of this, today we discussed about Krodha Vegam and Jiva Vegam. They can ask in the chat. There is one question the beginning. So one devotee is asking where Krishna told Arjuna to become angry. Oh, there are many slokas. He says, Uttishta, you should get up and start fighting. So exact verse I am not remembering, but he says in the second chapter itself that he should get up and he should give up his importance and he should start fighting. Actually, this verse, Kutasva Kashmalimidam Vishame Samupaistutam, there he is chastising Arjuna that how come these impurities have coming upon you, the desire not to fight. So he is chastising Arjuna there. So indirectly what it means, he's saying you should become angry, you should fight. Becoming angry in the sense he telling him to fight. That means becoming angry only, no? We cannot fight without becoming angry, no? So once His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj was telling how a devotee uses mode of passion. Just like while suppose somebody is riding a bike, there are different gears, right? First gear, second gear. So a person may use the gear, right? First gear, second gear to increase the speed, third gear, like that. So, but he should not come under the control of the bike. In the sense, he is using the bike. So, same way one may use anger, but he should not be controlled by anger. Understand? So, sometimes a devotee may use anger. What happened? Lost audio. Is my sound okay? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So in case somebody is not audible, they should go and sit near some range where the range is good. So just what I was telling, right? Yeah. So one should not become. One may use anger, like we use the bike, but one should not be controlled by that anger. Understand? So like that, when a devotee may become angry, but one should not become controlled. There is another question here. Sometimes a doctor may tell us to, Ayurvedic doctor may tell us to cook a specific diet, and we may cook separately uh, for our own. Is it is it breaking the etiquette of cooking for one's own self? No, that is okay, because for the sake of good health and serving Krishna nicely, we may sometimes cook specific items in the sense for keeping our health in good shape. That is not breaking the etiquette in that sense, because it is finally for the sake of serving Krishna only. Okay, one devotee is asking one should not dress very nicely. Lord Chaitanya said. So that is specifically for renunciates in the sense he was telling to Raghunath Das Goswami uh, because the renunciates are supposed to dress very simply, but sometimes even grastas also, while they go out and all, they may have to dress nicely, neat and clean, but not too lavishly just to attract others. That is also not recommended. Okay, any other questions? How to forgive and forget others? Okay, so as we discussed in the that Bhagavatam shloka, if you remember that verse of bull, you can meditate on that verse of bull. The bull is saying that one should actually uh, not see the person as the real cause, because many times the person is just an instrument of our previous karma. So even if somebody does anything wrong towards us or blasphemes us, we should see him as an instrument. Uh, he is not the real cause. We are supposed to receive. Actually, a devotee should feel that he always deserves worse because of his past sinful activities. He is supposed to. We are supposed to receive worse, but Krishna is kind. He is giving only little. So a devotee, whatever he receives, he sees the hand of Krishna. He sees that Krishna is sending this. So I am grateful for whatever Krishna sends, because he is actually giving little. Like Prabhupada said, if a devotee's finger is cut, he thinks actually my hand should have been cut, but Krishna is kindly cutting only my little finger, little bit. So like that, a devotee is grateful, and he sees the person who did this is an instrument. He is not the real cause. So I should blame my own past sinful activities, not the person. But it is difficult to see like that, but we should practice. Another thing is, we can think that this is helping me to become Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Sahisnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. So if someone helps us to become this is the goal of life, to become Trinadapi. So if somebody is helping us to become like that, we should be grateful. Because only if that only because this person did like this, that's why I am able to practice this. If that person was not there, I'll never be able to practice Trinadapi. So a devotee is grateful for that. Okay. So, and also we can forget, in the sense, as I said, somebody may forgive. We should not hold any grudges in our mind. We should completely forget the incident and what others said also. Sometimes we don't forget. Uh, Externally we forgive, internally we don't forget the incidents. So that will go on after many years also. So we should be careful about that. So there is a question here. Oh my Lord. So many questions. 1 minute. So those who, 1 minute. We hear about bad about a particular devotee who may have served years, and after hearing bad, we may get infused these words. How to be understood here? When we hear some lectures, we try to relate to that particular devotee. Uh, so actually, when we hear any lectures, the first question is, if we hear bad about particular devotee, we should first of all know whether it is really correct or not. Sometimes people just gossip. If it is really correct, you should clarify. If it is correct, then we don't have any business, in the sense, if we are not his authorities, we should just neglect it, and we can pray for that person. Okay. But if it is something really bad, and if it needs to be told to our authorities, we can tell, but we need not keep it in our mind. And sometimes if it is not required, we need not hear also. In the sense, unnecessarily hearing bad about other devotees when we are not their authorities and we are no way related to them. So why to unnecessarily hear? If we have some relation and there is some service, sometimes we may need to know some mistakes of someone, so that we can help the person to serve properly. But otherwise we need not hear. Okay. And when we hear lectures, we should not hear lectures uh, the sense to think in relation. Here the question is, when we hear lectures, we hear in relation to some particular devotee. So we should not hear in relation to others, we should relate to ourselves. That lecture is related to me, not to others. If we see like that, if we should apply the lecture to ourselves, not to others. Okay. So that way we'll not apply the lecture to others. Yeah, forgetting is difficult, but we should pray to Krishna to forget. We should sincerely pray. See how much how much Prahlad was tortured, how much in Dhruva was tortured, how much Ambarish was tortured. Are we tortured so much? See, in one lecture I was hearing, His Holiness Radhanath Swami was telling, are we thrown from hilltops? Are we attacked by weapons? So many things he was telling, like Prahlad. So we are not tortured so much. So they, even after so much torture, they forgot everything, and they prayed for the best destination, even after so much torture. So we should follow in the footsteps of such devotees. Uh, we should not unnecessarily, uh, in the sense, keep grudges. We should follow and pray to these great souls like Prahlad and Dhruva and all these devotees. Another question. Sometimes, 1 minute. My question is, sometimes due to social constraints, we are forced to accept food from materialistic boss. How to avoid? So as I said last time, we can tell the boss that I would like to take only fruits or milk products, and we can mentally offer them and take. We need not take, we can tell them clearly that I don't take this outside food. Another question is, should we forget and forgive even non-devotees who spoke badly against ISKCON? Yeah, in the sense, we can keep distance from them and we can pray for them. We should forgive them, because if you don't forgive, then Lord will never forgive. Actually, when a devotee doesn't forgive, then Lord never forgives that person. So if he can forgive, then Lord also will forgive them. And if we forgive others, Lord also forgives us. That's why we should develop that forgiveness. Okay, another question. If somebody commits mistakes, should we associate with the devotee? We can associate, because everybody has some uh, mistakes. As long as a person is following four regulative principles, chanting 16 rounds, and no, not unnecessarily blaspheming devotees, we can associate. Somebody is too much blasphemous, we can keep distance from them. Next question: are milk products allowed from outside? Okay, kova and sweets. See, milk, we can take milk outside. If somebody is offering milk, we can take. Milk sweets also Prabhupada allowed. It's okay to some degree, but better is fruits. Okay, 1 minute. Bread is not bread is not made by devotees, so we can avoid bread. Okay, so thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak. Hare Krishna. So one devotee is asking, tomorrow temples are open. Will the classes start? That Monday there is a HTMC meeting, so they will decide what to be done. Monday they will decide and tell. Here, if cow milk is not there, can we take buffalo milk? Prabhupada said milk means cow milk. So it's better not to take buffalo milk. I heard it is in mode of ignorance. So that's why we should avoid buffalo milk. Cow milk is always better. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. So all of you pray that I can control my urges, vacho vegam, all these things. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Samveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.